we have a quorum, but I think I'll wait a couple of minutes because I know Lynn is coming. You have to leave at 5, but
So Peggy, are you gonna do minutes this time?
I am. So
Oh,
speak slowly, Tom.
yeah. Well, a new chapter is turned. Anyway.
Yeah, you're gonna like sit back, put your feet up, and I may run them by you,
Mm-hmm.
if I may.
Peggy, if you want real torture, you can record the whole meeting.
Well, it looks like it is recording.
yeah, it's recording.
So I could
Okay.
listen to the whole thing a second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be torture. Not really.
I'll give it one more minute and we'll start. And oh, wait a minute now. Here's John Conway. What happened? I just tried. Did he get in?
Fred's here.
He's here. He's not pictured
Oh, okay.
and he's muted. There he is.
Yep, I'm in.
Hey, John.
Hey, Bruce,
How are you doing?
Yeah.
you know.
Don't ask.
Right.
What are we all doing?
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I think we'll start, and I'll just keep an eye out for Lynn because I do know that she was going to come. So we'll start the meeting at 4:02, and the first is corrections to the agenda. Everybody, I assume, got the agenda.
Yes.
Yep.
Any questions, corrections?
We have corrections in from Denny, some typos and
That's on minutes.
minutes. I'm sorry.
5 minutes we got.
I'm jumping ahead.
Okay. Okay, a move to accept.
So
So,
moved. So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
aye,
Anybody opposed?
Mm.
Accepted. Okay, minutes for 9/22. When I sent it, I know there are a couple of typos, but otherwise, any comments, any corrections on the minutes from September? Okay. Move to accept.
Move to accept.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so that passes unanimously. Okay. So for the chair report, the first thing I wanted to let people know, and this comes from Denny in a meeting he was at with Melissa Cryan, DCS, who administers the state and federal grants for conservation. There's as a result of the Great Outdoors Act passed by the feds, there is a source of funds for land and water conservation. It's a 50% reimbursement plan. So that's good news. The couple of things about this: we have to have an active plan for conservation, and so we had talked about that with Hillary, and even trying to get some grant money, but I'm sure that that is not actively happening given COVID and all the other things. But it is a kind of thing that we could start looking for properties, and this is potentially a real substantial bit of funding. Anything else on that, Denny? With
No, I think it's great. It is an enhancement of the old land grant, LAND grant,
Mhm.
which is a 50% reimbursement. And it has increased the amount to
Control.
being reimbursable up to $750,000. So it's substantial and ought to give you the opportunity to do things if you see an opportunity. I would comment that Mark has said that he would be available to assist with any of those grants, which is always helpful. Although getting his time is a challenge, so it's moving forward. And as Bruce said, you need to have an up-to-date open space and recreation plan. So back to that grade.
Is this, Denny, do you know how this is distributed? Is it by state, or is it just a one huge fund that anyone can apply to, or?
It comes from the feds to the state, and the amount that goes to the state is set somehow, and I believe it's something like $11 million. And then the state, the DCR or whoever it is, administers that. Yeah, sorry about my phone there, but it administers it, and so it's an application and all that sort of stuff.
So can I,
Okay.
so what this means, Denny, correct me if I'm wrong, is we're upping the amount of money that we can now think about, which means I think we can look beyond non-buildable wetlands as conservation. We can start to think about, I mean, the Conservation Trust has got a lot of property. There's some open space property. We can start thinking about the possibility of linking these properties together.
Yep.
If that's possible, because we have more money. So, I mean, basically, we've not gone after anything except for what's on the cheap.
Well, we
Potentially.
actually did, John, about
Not
maybe,
you, I mean,
no, I mean the town. I'm speaking as if I'm a member of your committee here, so excuse me, but we did chase after the Pinto property,
that's true.
where we paid $450,000. I forget how much the town came up with, and
It was
WC
100.
came up with an equal amount, and that all counted as 50% of the purchase price. So we got a grant for the remainder of it. So basically, the town paid 1/4 of what the property cost. And so we can do that again.
Right.
And certainly we'd be, if we have the resources and we haven't spent them all, we'd be happy to help out. know.
I would like, again, this is COVID throws everything into a mess, but this money raises again the potential of thinking about our long-term plan about what we would like to acquire in terms of our larger vision of what we want in the way of open spaces. Do we want to just continue the checkerboard, sort of what's available, we'll see if we can get, or do we want to start targeting where we would like to be and see about what we can do to get that property?
I've always used the bigger term saying we're opportunistic, which means whatever's available. And really, practically that's what land buying is. It's you got to have a seller before you can have a buyer, although in some cases there might be some land around where a little stimulation might cause it to be available. So, but I understand.
Denny, have you seen land that's recently come on? I noticed that a Bayberry Lane property is back on the market at a lower price, and I was going to talk about that when there was the right opportunity. I'm not sure.
I'd like to. Oh, that is the starts with P, Piles property.
Yes.
Yep, and I don't. What's it listed at now, Lynn?
It's now 749, and before it was 849. Can you see
Yep.
it?
Yeah, I know
Really
it.
nice piece of land.
It's a gorgeous piece of land, and WCT spent a better part of a year trying to negotiate a deal with the Piles.
I remember that, and Kathleen Nagel says it's now with a discount seller. She thinks it might indicate that they need the money.
I think I don't know if they need the money, but they want the money. They want to monetize it, as the word is, and
It was
Robert-
last in, it was on the market in 2018 and a listing eventually expired.
Yep.
And it's next to preservation to get to John's, but I'm not bordered by preservation land. I didn't get a chance to look at that.
Well, it is next to a CR that we have on
Oh.
Teresa Cochran and John Grebe, which is down at the bottom of Bayberry Lane.
Oh, okay.
We actually did a site visit over there, Lynn. I thought you lived
Yeah.
there, weren't you? Yeah.
Yes, but wasn't that property, was it? It was.
Yeah. No, it's the same. It's the Piles
Oh, it
project.
is?
It's the same
Oh,
one.
okay.
Yeah,
So it's just seeing it from a different angle.
right. But just to get back to what John was saying, I'm I guess I'm less, I don't know how you put together a plan that kind of looks at everything. I mean, what I hear Denny saying, what is there are opportunities that are out there. There's land that comes up that, there are big pieces, very few big pieces, but there are some that are around. What could we do about that? But I think certainly to work with the Conservation Trust just allows us to participate and to put some more money in. I have to say, I personally think with the end of the land bank money, that most of the money through the Preservation Act is going into housing. That's the right place for that money to go. Right now, from my perspective, if there are pieces of property that really meet criteria for what we're looking for, particularly with climate change, if the water's rising and we have a piece that we can get that it's going to protect, that's the piece we ought to go after. But, I don't think the priorities of the town are so far off right now. So and maybe I'm not the right person in the position here, but it's an opportunity to, certainly this increased grant opportunity is something that we can look at for the future.
I have a question about the grant.
Yeah.
What's the timeline on that? And if we need to have an up-to-date open space plan, as I recall, we haven't made a great deal of progress on revising the open space plan, or am I confusing that with another document?
No, you got the document.
So is it likely
what-
that we could get it updated in time to actually apply for one of these grants?
I don't know how long is the grant thing open for, Danny? Do you know?
It's forever and ever. It's now a permanent funding of $900+ million a year from the feds, and that flows down to something like 11 million this year for Massachusetts. So it's a permanent fund, which has never been before.
Wow.
So let me just say with the plan, if there's somebody else, Denny and I and the AmeriCorps person and Doug worked on that plan for a bit. The decision was not to go through with it because by the time we were done, there was a lot of outdated stuff and it needed some more work. If somebody else wants to work on that plan, I invite you. It's the one down thing again with the being the chair, it all sort of slides this way. If people want, to look at this money, we need the plan. And if someone is willing to help with that plan, Doug will do it. We were hoping, Hillary was interested in getting it done and was hoping for some grants. As I say, I'd be very surprised if that's not way in the back burner at this point. But this is, we can certainly, if we have a group that can take this on, we can do it ourselves. So I don't need an
Like a
answer right now, but
subcommittee.
what's that?
A subcommittee.
A subcommittee.
Yeah.
So think about it. The last thing I have is I just wanted to thank Tom for years of his secretarial work. And, that was above and beyond for a long time, as well as vice president, and to thank Peggy for taking this on. So a lot of work with that job too, but I appreciate it.
Yes.
Anything, Tom, vice chair?
No, I don't think so, Bruce.
Okay. Property management, Fred?
Well, I've gone so far as to pick up a couple of books to start the inspections, and probably start any day now. And I'm happy that Tom has volunteered to help me.
Who has? Please help, oh, Tom.
Yeah, Tom Slack.
Yeah, I didn't.
Remember
hear-
him? He's
With
on.
all his free time.
Again, I think we're still a little bit early, ideally with the, when the leaves fall
Well,
is,
let the leaves fall off a little more.
yeah, really to get the best look, but, okay, trail guides, Lynn?
I don't think we have to do anything for the moment, there's no of them. You have something, Danny?
Can I just say that we have an expert mapper working with us this year from AmeriCorps, and I've asked her to look at all of the trail guide maps, and we can probably update those. We went out to Clover this morning. She sees where the current map is deficient. So we will close that final loop that's out there, but we'll also look at the other properties this year. And so you may have some new maps when you go to republish.
And could I maybe also be involved in the mapping or,
Sure.
maybe go out on some of the
Mm.
work I can do with you guys,
Oh, yeah.
to see.
We have her on Tuesdays, Lynn.
Okay. Okay. And then I think you said you had a couple already, because we have a few guides close, pretty much near where they should be reprinted. And I think you had a couple of changes already. Should I be holding up on all of them or?
No, when we get them ready, we'll give them to you. But if you have a priority that you need to do, let us know and we'll
Tell you,
make it our
okay.
priority.
Okay, I'll check. I've forgotten which. I think there are 2 or 3 that are coming up for reprinting.
What's the plan for distribution?
The normal is to put them in places like the library, the beach sticker office, town hall, and at specific functions like the State of the Harbor Conference and Wellfleet Conservation Trust annual meeting, that kind of thing, Denny. I'm trying to think what else.
Yeah, and we do the same. When we go to a meeting, we'll bring a few maps with us.
Yeah.
And
But
so
there's
it's that.
not really a lot of opportunity right now, is there?
Chamber, no, there isn't. So that's why I've been saying for quite a while, there's some close to needing to be reprinted, but we still have enough for the time being.
But if those maybe could be the priority
I
for
think,
having the
Yes.
the AmeriCorps volunteer
yes,
look at those.
yes, and I'll get back to,
I hate to say it, but she's a fast walker. And no, I can't go with her. But the amount of time that it takes her to do one of these maps is walking time plus 20 minutes.
wow. Maybe I'll withdraw my offer. I was just, it sounds good.
Sounds like some great exercise, Lynn.
Since we're talking about the maps, is there a reason we don't just give them to or do we, the Chamber of Commerce,
We do,
and places like that?
we do.
Yeah,
I keep the Chamber of Commerce supplied. They usually call if they're short.
Okay.
okay, and the liaison reports, the Conservation Trust, whole lot going on over there. Just to say, one of the things I wanted to mention, because it does impact us, is the Swain lots, which are the 2 lots down off western kind of Bond Avenue and
Bond,
Wharf.
yeah.
And one of those is moving forward very shortly, Danny, right? With
It is done.
John, congratulations.
The first of the 2 lots. There are 2 lots in there, and they're teeny, they're both buildable, and we went through all that charade. And they were appraised at $250 each. We got them the package down to $125 for both, plus a $75,000 tax credit. The tax credit is not available until 2023. So we closed on one and we're waiting to go close on the other one. So
Where are these, Denny? I'm sorry, I missed the beginning.
So off Bond Street, which is if you go down Old Wharf,
Oh, okay.
and it cuts off to the left. The reason I mentioned for us is there are two small properties. One of them is in town, town owns now, and the other one I understand they're going for is right next to those two. So that would be a natural thing to put those in conservation. But it sounds like a second one isn't going to be ready until 93, so we got some time to look at it. The yacht club land, the Faust land is deal has successfully passed, and that trail is being planned at this point, Denny, right? With
yes, we have a first mapping of the trail outline up there. There's a little more work to do before we convene a work crew. And I'll make sure that anybody who wants to work is invited. Although I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I imagine we'll probably end up with something like a mile and a half of trail. And we'll try to stick to the open places. And we'll be putting some benches up there and all that sort of stuff. So it's moving along. We've got to agree on the trail location. And Jackie Faust has been very involved and wonderfully assisting.
Is she the young woman who came to our last meeting?
No way.
Oh, okay.
very different.
Okay. She's either not young or she didn't come to our last meeting.
Yeah. Okay, anything else, Denny?
Yeah, we did close on another parcel up in North Wellfleet off of Meadowview Road. And that's a 1 acre, basically kettle hole. And so it was deemed buildable. And so the guy will get a good tax break out of it. But it was pretty easily accomplished, which is wonderful.
Good.
That's Meadowview Road?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And then Friends of the Herring River, anything, Lynn?
Just a quick update. As Martha says, it sounds like a broken record, but they're finalizing permit applications. Yet again, one, for instance, an individual permit application with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. That's just one example. Ongoing discussions between the National Seashore and the town of Wellfleet regarding a land swap to project, due to project impacts that will happen on the seashore properties when development begins. They're also they've also had 2 grants recently, NOAA 360,000 and the Baker Polito administration announced a 500,000 award, which will be administered by the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Games Division, the DER. They're busy, but it seems like it's in a period of inactivity, and they would really like to stay engaged with the community and improve partnerships with other organizations such as Open Space and Wellfleet Conservation Trust. And if anyone has ideas of how we could work with them and they could work with us, that would be good. And I guess what comes to mind is, Denny, if there's going to be trail clearing, particularly the Herring River overlook, that would be a good thing to involve Herring River friends in.
We had Beth out a week ago, clearing out the head of Duck Creek. We got rid of a lot of the trumpet vine that was out there and the
I
love.
heard.
So it really,
Yeah.
we got a lot accomplished, and so the Terrapins will be happy next year.
Yes, so if we get the Friends of Herring River involved in projects like that, I think that would be great. I'm wondering about other ideas with open space. They could update the plan. I'm kidding.
Hey,
Hey,
all the help we can get, Lynn.
Mhm.
I think that's it. I think I've, if anyone thinks of things that to include them, I think it's a good idea.
I would say that I had a communication from John Reel. I'm sorry he's not here today, but he's going to resign as the treasurer of the Friends of Herring River. But he's going to stay on as a director. And so they're looking for somebody to come on board as the treasurer. It's a pretty well-structured job in that they have an accountant and they have an auditor, and so it's not in the detail. It's just in management, so to speak. So if anybody wants to volunteer.
It's a little complicated, the amount of time I spent doing it or helping with it. Because you're having to figure out which money needs to be used by a certain date, grants and things. And so which to apply expenses to. But it's probably a very interesting treasurer job.
You wanted it.
Can we move on to housing partnership? John, I know you've been,
I've been sort of
Covering.
out of it, so I don't have anything to report.
Okay.
The continued discussion about what kind of waste unit to put in 95 Lawrence Road, but I can't report anything specific.
okay. The CPC, just so people, I'm going to throw a few things in. Bob's not here. We actually were moving on the Agra property. As some people here know, I went into AFib and had kind of a rough time for a while, and so just wasn't able to get that done. But there's a committee that's been formed to look at access to both for shellfishermen and for citizens in the community to the beaches. And that group has been very active on Lieutenant Island, mainly on the southwest side, but also looking at other areas that you could get to. I think it actually makes sense. They're also looking at specifically and talking to lawyers about the paper roads, et cetera. And given that the problem, just to remind people with the Agra property that the issue is not the easement for their property. They're willing, and I think that would pretty easily go through town meeting. But the area before their property is a paper road, and it's not completely clear who owns the road. It's not completely clear that we have access. I think as long as the committee and the lawyers are looking at all that stuff out of Lieutenant Island anyway, it makes sense. And I know I'm putting this a little ahead, but it comes out of the CPC thing. It makes sense to wait and see where that goes.
Bruce, on that Agra property, I was going to mention, you might want to think about who the ultimate holder is going to be, because I don't think it's going to be Conscom.
No, I totally agree, Denny. I think Conscom has already passed on this with the House. And so even though this is different, this is the easement, my thought would be just through the select board.
I guess I'm asking what the downside of waiting was. Wouldn't it be some assurance to go ahead with it? I had thought the other way.
Well, we're asking the town for $10,000 for something that may be meaningless if we can't get to the property.
Do you really think that's,
And I think, and they're working on it. I mean, right now, there's the group, and, I've been to a couple of the meetings, and Melissa from Audubon, Mr. Buss, I forget his first name, from the Lieutenant Island Association, John Reel, Nancy Savetta, a bunch of people getting, and the meetings have been pretty good, and there is some direction. There's some idea about looking at exactly what we want to look at. So from my point of view, I really don't think, I couldn't do it anyway, Lynn. I was too sick to get this done in time. But
what do you mean in time?
it had to be done October 15th or something like that.
Oh, get it.
Okay. But I do think that aside, that it makes sense to wait. Okay, NRAB, Tom?
No, we're just basically working on this harbor management plan, which should be completed fairly soon, with various sections on access, climate change, dredging, not so much the dredging that's going on now, but what to do in the future about options for maybe reducing the need for it and that sort of thing. The shell fishing issues, which we're dealing with Nancy on, and I guess it's coming together. It's been, it's sort of like the open space plan, it's sort of pulling it together slowly, but we have another meeting next week, so we should be able to kind of move towards the completion of it, I think. And, they've also been, there's been discussion in that committee, well, since John is the chairman, about many of the same issues we're thinking about, including that, the access to the water access, especially, and more in respect to, some of the shell fishermen's requests and that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's ongoing.
Okay. Just to say with the old business, I actually have not, I tried to contact the State Mesa, and it with the COVID, it's really difficult to get through and to get things, but I've had no contact with the select board. This has to do with the property on 3014 following down. So, but to look at some of the other properties, the agri property we talked about, again, we have voted on moving forward with the 3 wetlands. And the other 2 areas that we were talking about, the first is Indian Neck. And again, there's 2 big pieces that are to the right. And then there's another piece to the left, which is used as a beach. I did contact Suzanne Grout-Thomas, and she felt both with that beach property and with Sewell's Gutter, for that matter, that they don't have any vested interest in keeping it, and so the transfer would be reasonable. And Fred and I have a Zoom meeting with Hillary tomorrow to get her input into where things are going. But as long as she's okay with that, I think. Well, the one other group with the Indian Neck, not on the beach side, but on the marsh side, is the shell fishermen. And I've heard at least some rumors that shell fishermen, some of the wild pickers, would like to have more access over on that side. So I think that's something we have to really look at. But the piece has been closed off for a long time. There's been no automobile use. There is access they can get if they wanted to walk out there. But
Which number is that, Bruce?
these are, the Indian Neck ones are map, I believe it's 28, and it's 80, 82, and 239.
And is 239 the one that there's no access?
Yeah, correct. But I actually think that, you know, that's been locked up enough that my own bias is that that's a beautiful marsh. Good, as Fred has said, good marshes make for good oysters, and you know, it really makes sense to protect that marsh. I think it's really a beautiful area, but I think we do want to talk some more. Nancy Civetta has come here, and she's actually been at some of the other meetings, and I think they're okay with this, but I think it's a little more discussion with the shell fishermen about it. Any comments on that or thoughts about it?
The one lot on the beach side does have significant upland property, doesn't it, Bruce?
It does.
Yeah.
So and that's not an issue, is it, or is it?
We'll find out when the vote comes, Steph.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't see it, you know, it in terms of it's used as a beach. Suzanne did not see an issue, you know, from their perspective, and it's really sandwiched between two conservation pieces of property. If people have them, take a look. But there's a conservation trust piece of property on the right, and there's a town conservation property on the left. And so I think it's sort of a natural. It's right on the dunes, even though it's listed as a buildable lot. I think it should not be a buildable lot. I don't think it should be built upon.
I
And
see nobody.
I'm not convinced that that's really correct, given the dune.
So these are town properties, right?
They are.
Okay.
I don't see anybody accessing across that upland adjacent to the beach. There is a path that goes through sort of between the property we're talking about and the piece that's already in conservation. It's a well-marked path, and it's one that I think people doing oystering or whatever down or clamming down there are using that path.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was talking about the other side there, Fred, you know, up on the right-hand side, up towards the grants and where the kayaks are. There's some discussion up there. No, this is well-defined. That path that goes through there's a Conservation Trust sign. If people have been over there, you can walk in, and that's pretty clear. And I think that this is something like 21 acres. It's just, like I say, as long as Hillary is on board, I think it really makes sense. Okay, and then
Didn't you guys say there was a good trail through there? Or
Yeah.
Yes.
Walking through the woods, yeah.
Yeah, there's a nice trail down there. I think that's where people used to drive years ago, but what's left now is just a nice foot trail. It's just a beautiful marsh.
So that's where you went, Peggy, right?
Yeah, but we couldn't really find the trail.
The trail. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. Where does it start?
Well, if you start from where you can park on the right-hand side and you go to the right, you have to kind of, there's not a direct trail that goes through it, but it goes through the lot. So the Conservation Trust owns a whole bunch of the land over to the right.
Right.
If you go along their land, there's a trail that cuts right along the top of the marsh line almost. It looks like it gets a lot of walking use.
We had one of our fall walks in there probably.
Oh, I remember.
6 or 8 years ago, that Don Palladino led.
Yes, I remember that. It was good.
Mm.
Okay. So can I ask a question about the way this is written here, Bruce?
But yeah,
it says town-owned lots, candidates for transfers, the first bullet.
Right.
The second bullet says other properties for consideration, new properties for sale. But we're talking about town-owned lots in,
This is a town-owned lot as well,
is
right?
that the only one that's in the second? The others all
These are all, the only one that is not town-owned land is the Agra property.
Oh, okay. So,
Okay, so I'll change that
thank you.
so it's clearer
I
the
was-
next time we do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and then Sewell's Gutter. Any comments on Sewell's Gutter?
Well, I know the Conscom is looking at where the kayaks are going, and I think there's pretty much general resolution that there won't be kayaks there in the future. Although I don't think they've given their final report, but there is, John probably knows this, under Conscom, there's a subcommittee that's been looking at it. I think they're going to report next meeting, are they, John, or?
Yeah, that's the expectation. And, you know, off the record, the sentiment at this point is no kayaks there anymore. The rack will not survive the winter and they won't rebuild the rack, and they don't want kayaks on any place but on a rack. That's basically what happens is if you allow kayaks, they're going to be on the beach grass and messing the whole thing up. So I think the sentiment is no kayaks there.
It also cuts down the traffic on Omaha Road, which is needed according to the residents down there.
So they wouldn't actively, or I should ask, would they actively remove the rack or would they just pray for a big storm?
I think that rack actually, in most winter storms, it'll be there next year unless you take it out. But the problem with that rack is that it invites people to walk up the face of the dune. It's not a very big dune, but it's just getting destroyed by the people using it. And so I think they're looking at getting rid of it. And for WCT's case, we support keeping that dune there because it protects the Sewell's Gutter that we have.
Yeah, I guess the problem I have with it, the other thing is that I think that part of Omaha Road, and now Omaha Road it's tricky because it's a private road. The shell fishermen have access because of a verbal permission, as I understand it. But in either case, it is being used. There are pieces of land in conservation which are used by the shell fishermen and by vehicular traffic. And Old Wharf, there are two of them, and so there is a model for that to happen. But the fact that it's there makes me more ambivalent about the property. The other thing I think with that property is that it's not the Sewell's Gutter itself is a lovely conservation area. That beach area is a beach area, and boy, paddling past it a couple times this summer, it's really a busy beach area. So Suzanne's saying it's not ours, but I have trouble getting enthusiastic about this. But
It's another one of the discovered secret beaches.
yeah. But again, Conscom also is going to make some decisions about the property and whether it's in their care or not. We're talking with Hillary about it tomorrow, so we'll get her input on it. But other people with opinions on this that.
Just asking clarification when you say, Suzanne, they aren't recognizing the beach at Sewell's Gutter as a town beach? Is that
Well, no, I mean,
what I'm understanding?
there's town beaches and beaches that the beach group that she would be responsible for. You know, Indian Neck even, that beach is used as a beach. In fact, the Conservation Trust property is used as a beach. But the beach committee is responsible for the Indian Neck Beach, which stops at the Conservation Trust property. My understanding from, and this is reading, this is back and forth by email, but is that, they're not looking at making that a formal town beach. They're all used as beaches, and even the piece of property we saved over at, that went into Conscom rather than the town at Pleasant Point is used as a beach by some people.
I think the issue for the beach department is beach stickers. And we've talked about that and the fact that beach stickers are not required at Omaha Road. And so that's part of the issue. And if it becomes a beach sticker lot, then they have to patrol it. And I can comment about the patrolling of beaches by our town.
Right. Yeah, the other thing I think that was really tough this year, just to talk about what happened at Lieutenant Island, is at least the perspective of the Lieutenant Islanders, because the beaches were closed off, the ocean beaches and some of the others, that there were a lot of people down here looking for places to go who drove out to the end of Lieutenant Island, and they were parking in the marshes, and they were, it was really my guess is that probably some of that happened at Omaha as well. Who knows? But in either case, we'll talk with Hillary tomorrow and get some more ideas. Anything else with these properties? And I will make those corrections, Lynn, so it reads better.
Thanks. Well, can we list this property for consideration?
Sure. I mean, what are you guys doing, Danny? I mean, but I still think, I have to say the money is there, but I think what works best, just to remind you, the other thing that we did do just a few years ago was the link lot. And I know there were some bad memories to that lot that made the vote difficult. But, I think had that been a Conservation Trust town partnership and we chip in, that's something that might have happened. Are you guys interested in that lot, Danny? Again,
At the right price, we would be, but they're still way off the mark. I didn't talk about another property that we're just about to go to closing on, that is on Bayberry Lane there. We have a parcel that they tried to sell a couple of years ago. It's stuck in a state. And they had listed it at $250, and then they dropped it to $229, and we have our deal at under $150. So we've got
Fantastic.
done and all that. But the important part of that transaction is that there is a single parcel that surrounds the whole Bayberry Lane area that abuts all of the shoreline properties, and that's included in the transaction. So we'll have all that, and I think it'd be great to have Files lot, but their price expectations are tough, and we worked it hard, and we drug them through the mud to try to get there, and so I don't think they hold it against us, but it would be a challenge.
Yeah, I guess I just think it's something would be sad to see a big house on, another development on the water.
Well, frankly, that's a very difficult lot to develop. It can't handle a big house. The access is a real challenge, and that's because of the piles, the way they carved up all their lots. And fortunately, Teresa Cochran came in and bought one of the lots and then put a CR on it. So it's a challenge, but with enough money, you can do anything, I guess.
So it hasn't got much upland, or?
No.
The topography, as I recall, there's
Right.
like ravines running through it.
Yeah.
Well,
Just a beautiful
ravines.
beast.
Ravines to get to it.
Right.
And all those ravines are going to be within Conscom jurisdiction and all that. So
Okay.
A beautiful piece of conservation property, though. if
Oh,
they,
yeah.
Yeah.
Something can, that's its beautiful views and, but anyway, look. Anybody else, anything with,
I'd recommend that you do keep that on your, in the back burner type list.
sure,
The Piles property, Denny?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I second that.
That list that John Portnoy gave us years ago, of course, has it on there as part of the run. Yeah.
I would say that all of the conservationist type people have drooled over that property for a long time. So
anything else with,
So the talking about needing money, being able to use grants and needing to get our 5-year plan done. I think it would be good to form a subcommittee. Obviously, I don't recall why it has to be almost started over again. Is it just that the details are out of date or?
no, let me just say, I really think that's a little strong. I mean, there's a lot of information about geological formation and all kinds of things. It's a big, big project, but those things are all done and they haven't changed. And so it isn't like it's starting from step one and doing this whole thing. Unfortunately this year, Denny has, I say fortunately for Denny, but not for the town. There are two AmeriCorps members. No, the other one may be wonderful too. I don't know, but this one sounds like she'd be a crackerjack for this kind of a project. But
well, and I'm very happy to use her for any sort of mapping facility that you all need too. Sorry.
so that may help, but it's not as, but to take people back, this sat on a desk for quite some time, and the message was that we only had about 6 small things to put together, and I can just tell you, as one of the people who was working on it, that is not the case. To really, there's quite a bit of work that goes into it, but it isn't starting. There's a whole bunch of that project that has to do with fixed facts that are all written, that we don't have to redo. There's nothing like that. The problem is what the goals are, and some of the goals, the actions, et cetera, all need to be redone. The properties, the format that we're looking at, I think we have it up to date at this point, but that has to be redone. There are a number of things that it's still quite a bit of work. And the other thing is, if there's somebody who's going to write it, I mean, it's
pretty disjointed where it is right now,
Yeah.
which is part of the problem. And a lot of the stuff that's in there is historically inaccurate. So
Oh, can it be removed, some of it, or does it have to be replaced?
part of the challenge is that the state has a pretty tight formula on what an open space committee, open space recreation plan has to be.
And
Yeah.
who's the guy, who guides on that? Who do,
The state.
so
I mean,
that,
you just have to roll your sleeves up and slog through it. I mean,
but where does that?
Doug, is that you're asking for us who would be?
Yes,
So Doug Gouy Lee is the person who is,
Doug?
no, he took it over from Brian, and unfortunately, as you know, Doug has got lots and lots and lots on his plate. Many of it, much of it needs to be done, tomorrow or the next day, and so it's again, this is not something that is necessarily takes priority. But if we have an opportunity to get some real money, it makes sense to redo it.
Well, if, there are people interested in being on the subcommittee, and I would need, I'm not sure I even have spoken to Doug. So, you know, I would need some,
Well, Doug's a good guy, and it's going to take somebody's backbone from this committee to really push it through. And not to say that Bruce doesn't have a good backbone, but it is work, and you got to stick with it. And it's, you know, I can see a week or two of good hard time getting to be familiar with the old plan and getting familiar with what the new criteria are and trying to blend it all together.
1 to 2 weeks seems much more doable than
Although-
languishing forever.
I think that's very optimistic, Denny.
Or is
Well,
that just to get familiar with it?
Oh, to get familiar.
What I'm saying is maybe 100 hours as to what the elapsed time is for that 100 hours. I don't know.
well, that's the thing. I would have time here and there. I'm not going to be able to focus solidly, but I think it's a good thing to do with someone else to bounce off. So would be good to have 2 or 3 of us doing it, I think. So if people want to think about it and get back to me, and I think, Bruce, you would need to at least be there at the start, no?
Oh, sure. No, and I'm well aware what the old plan and the new plan are, and I'm happy
Okay, that's what I mean.
to,
But
you know.
But what is the rough feeling of how long when it should be done by?
Well, you know, right, if you're not going for the money, then, you know, there's no urgency to this at all.
No, I know, but if,
I mean, it should be done just because there are other, what John's talking about really is, you know, to have a plan, really, if you do this plan, 5-year plan correctly, then what you're doing is what he's advocating. And so I do think there's a purpose to it, but in terms of motivation, it's a lot of work. To speak personally, it's not work that I enjoy that much. And the hope was that if you got a grant writer, that would be a terrific thing. And there are apparently some grants out there for small towns. The problem is, we can ask Hillary tomorrow, but I just don't think that this is a high priority. And the reason it's coming up now again is because here is potentially an opportunity to get some money, and then we can really do some things that, you know, something that WCT may not be able to pull together themselves. We could join with them and really do some nice work. We have to get this done before we can do that.
There's a whole set of procedures involved and approvals that you need to do. You would need Conscom approval. So you drag them through it all, and then you need the
the
board.
whole thing,
Yep, the whole thing. And the select board has to approve it before the state will approve it. So you've got to work through your own committee, work through the state administration people who work on these things, then come back and get through the Conscom, and then get through the select board in order to go forward. So, you know, it's rigorous in that regard.
mhm. Have you done anything like that, Danny?
Well, I certainly worked with Bob Hubby when he updated it the last time.
Okay,
And prior to that, I know the Conservation Trust was involved when Doug Thibodeau, who wrote the original plan, did it. So,
oh,
Well, I'd be glad to sit down and look at the old plan and talk to Bruce or whoever knows what's deficient in it that needs to be corrected. But at this point, I really don't have a good concept of what is involved.
right.
Until I actually look at the old plan
Right.
and
So
see
that-
where it should go. What's it lacking?
do you have the old plan, Bruce?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have a couple of old, you know, I have the old plan, and then what Bob did was a re-up, you know, so that didn't have to go through the steps that you're talking about.
Bob who?
What we're doing now, though, would be a new plan, so that has
Oh,
to go
Bob,
through
happy.
all of the steps that Denny was just talking about. But I have
Yeah.
the plan that we had put together. I have the old plan, the plan that was done back, 10 years before even. So I've had several plans here that people could take a look at.
So maybe, well, that sounds like Fred and me and you, Bruce, would need to get together sometime and look at it, and if anyone else wants to. But I know you have a lot of tests and things coming up, so let's
Yeah.
not set something up now.
Yeah.
But do you agree, Fred?
Yeah, I'll be plenty of time this winter probably to work on something like that.
I don't feel like I've got plenty of time, and don't ask me where the time goes, but, but, so I'm nervous, but,
Well, we'll, give it another try and see what's happening with Doug. My guess is with the COVID and everything else, that this is a real tough time for him to be involved in it. I mean, he's the guy, and he's the one who's ultimately responsible.
and our meetings would have to be Zoom, which is, for talking.
But I personally don't think you can do this by Zoom. I mean, in other words, I can't copy that. We need to, if we could get together outside and distance and go over this, it's just too much material that is, I guess, it's online, I guess. But I don't know.
You could share
Well,
screen.
I'd suggest that people take a look at the original plan. and,
Right.
uh,
Let
That'll
me-
give you an idea.
I can pass that around and people can take a look at it and we'll start from there.
So those of us that did work on it for a while, I think I might have it. But not all the originals, just the one we were working on, I think.
So I'll pass it around. I can drop it off with Fred because he's real close first. A couple of the last ones, and then we'll get it to you, Lynn, and if anyone else again wants to take part.
Did
in
we
this.
not submit something maybe 4 or 5 years ago to the state, and it came back with all kinds of things that they wanted us to do? Is that what?
I
we're-
suspect, I think I heard that.
Right, no, that is correct.
Yeah,
They gave us a provisionary or whatever it was called approval with, these things that we had to do. What we were told actually at the time was that there were just a few, that we had essentially been approved for the plan. This was an update of the plan.
Mhm.
So at that point, we would have not had to do the whole plan over. We had an update and et cetera, but that sat for a long time before it made it to us. And then we spent too much time to do a re-uptake again. So we were stuck with a new plan. Bottom
Would
line.
one of the goals be to shorten it? I just remember it being so long.
Sounds good to me. As Denny said, they have pretty strict requirements for what they're looking
Yeah.
for. And when you
I
start to
actually
look
have
at-
to.
you look at the format even of the goals and the actions, and it's takes some time. But anyway, it's a good place to start. And
Okay,
this money really is a driver, and I think it's an opportunity that we should really.
okay.
Okay. And
Well,
anything
I
else?
would like to be a part of it, and I'm afraid I have to sign off.
Yep.
Good.
And I think we're about to end anyway, unless there's anybody have anything else urgent or.
So we didn't have anything to vote on.
I was going
Yeah.
to say, with those properties for consideration, we're not ready to.
No, we need to talk with Hillary. We've got Suzanne's, and I think both Hillary and to have another discussion with Nancy Savetta and make sure we're all on the same page.
Even
Um,
the wetlands at the end of Bayberry Trail.
I'm sorry, what? Oh, yeah, no, those ones we voted last time. Or the time before. So the
Time
wetlands,
before.
there are 3 wetlands that we put together in one article. And that's the wetlands by the Bayberry Trail and then the 2 wetlands in Blackfish Creek.
Yeah, so it's again, on the agenda, it's just confusing because it's
again,
still
I will
listed
go
under
through.
properties for consideration.
I'll clean up that agenda if that's not in the right place.
So may I move to adjourn?
Second,
Second? All in favor?
Glad-
Anybody opposed?
Good to see you.
I'm
Okay,
glad Lynn stayed on
Thank
for
you.
that.
Twice.
they say.
Hey, guys.
thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay.